right now there's this big thing and a lot of laws that's being implemented, especially with regard to wage transparency, right? Pay transparency. That means that it gives women another opportunity to be able to go to their employer and say, hey, you paying him this, but why are you paying me this? Historically, wages, especially in corporate America, has largely been negotiated. It's not something that people has, historically just been given. It's always a pay range. That pay range can be based off of your experience. It could be based off of different things and other factors such as who you know, how it is that you approach things and what you've communicated inside of the interview. And I even talk about how you're supposed to negotiate effectively inside of the Patreon and on my coaching calls, how it is that you're supposed to interview, what you can say in order to land that interview every single time. And it's been one of the most impactful videos because everybody that watch it, they watch it prior to and they study it before they go on interviews. And they say, yo, they were begging me to come, which then gives you the leverage for you to be able to negotiate your pay package more effectively, depending on how hard you are in corporate America, right? But let's back up for a minute, all right? Let's go through this, and then I'm going to give you the game and the sauce on how it is that you're supposed to be looking at the hidden cost of pay transparency according to CNBC.
Have you seen a salary range on any job listings lately? That could be because pay transparency laws are becoming more common in the United States.
New York City employers are starting to comply with the new salary transparency laws.
A new pay transparency law in California is giving us an inside look at what some of the biggest companies in the world are paying their employees.
Have y'all noticed that it's always the most liberal cities that's doing this dumb shit? This is not capitalism. This is slowly becoming socialism. It's always New York and California that institute this dumb stuff first.
The rising tide of pay transparency laws could give job seekers more leverage in 2023.
It's okay to ask, and it's also okay to look for that information before you decide whether or not that's a job you really want to go after.
Pay secrecy can allow gender wage gaps, racial wage gaps, various sorts of unfair pay to really flourish.
But some researchers think that these laws could have a downside.
What we found is that people get
reading super chat shortly.
Smaller raises. It slowed wage growth by approximately 1/3.
It's still hard to make sure that people are compensated equitably and fairly.
No, not compensated equitably and fairly. Not you, ma'am. Not you. Not you. Reading super chat shortly.
Why are so many people suddenly talking about how much they make? And is there any catch to this news?
Black Beauty, they not underpaying y'all. Y'all are getting paid what y'all worth. Listen, there are women. Let me play the video and then I'm going to break down the sauce for y'all. I'm going to tell you the honest to God truth about why. I'm reading super chats throughout the show, but I'm going to tell you the absolute truth about why you make less than men. But you're going to have to be open to the truth, though. I don't want y'all to get in y'all feelings. I don't want y'all getting emotional. I don't want y'all feeling a certain type of way. When I tell you the truth on why y'all make less than men, I don't want you feeling like Anton is attacking us. No, I love you, so I'm gonna give you the sauce and I'm gonna give you the truth. Okay? But you're gonna have to be open to it. Don't say I didn't warn you.
A growing portion of the United States is requiring companies to disclose how much they pay for a given job.
Pay transparency is sometimes used to mean not punishing people for talking to each other about how much they make. But more and more, we're seeing efforts to ensure that employers affirmatively provide information to job applicants or to employees about pay ranges for particular positions. New York State, California, Colorado, and Washington State are all requiring that in job announcements.
These states have the most aggressive forms of pay transparency. Everyone, even the people who don't apply to the job, knows what the pay will be. Other jurisdictions only make companies disclose pay upon request from an applicant.
Now, the first thing that I want y'all to ask yourself, because when y'all hearing this conversation and when y'all hearing these details and things, I don't want y'all to just listen to it with an ear to take into consideration just what they saying. I want you to ask yourself this question. Why? What incentive does these states have to make this pay transparent, to reveal the salaries of the people that work at this company, especially for new applicants and so on and so forth. I see you, Luck. I'm going to be reading Super Chat shortly.
So we're seeing that in states like Connecticut, Maryland, Nevada, and Rhode Island.
Of course, there has been some degree of wage transparency in the states for many years. For example, virtually all federal government jobs list pay ranges.
Correct. Federal government jobs. Also, on top of that, major universities, so on and so forth. Ladies, if you're dating a man that works at a major university, a federal government job, or anything like that, you can literally go on that website. I shouldn't even be telling y'all this. You know, you can go to that website and find out exactly how much he makes. It'll list his salary. It'll list him. It'll list his name. You can find out whether or not his name is really his name. You can find out whether or not he really makes what he make. I shouldn't even be telling y'all that, but you can go online, especially if they work for the federal government in most instances, which is one of the reasons why a lot of guys, when they get coached by me, I tell them and I give them this additional information to help them to understand that depending on who you are and where you are in life, and if you're married and so on and so forth, you need to be careful on the position that you're choosing if you weigh an option between going with A or you going with B, because you can literally go online and find out exactly how much whoever it is making when they make what they make. And most people don't even know this. It is public information. They are public servants. You are absolutely right, Hema. You're absolutely right. Gave y'all a gem already.
The U.S.'s largest employer is the government. All government salaries are public. When you look at professional sports, we know what LeBron James makes. So I just kind of feel like it's something that that does have a lot of impact.
Workers have technically had the right to discuss their pay rates since 1935. This modern movement is far more potent. It traces back.
Most of the time, the website, Lucky, is the website for whatever the organization is. So, like, for example, when I was working for the University of Michigan, one of the things that I did, because I didn't need the money, I looked at all of the other total compensation, right? So total compensation is the entirety of the pay package, whether it's the benefits, whether it's the 401k, or in this case, the 403b. 403b is often associated with nonprofit organizations, but it is the same thing as a 401k as far as your retirement contribution. Your total compensation package is much bigger than your salary, right? So, for example, when I took a position at the University of Michigan, I was more concerned with getting in and leveraging certain relationships and using the experience in order to move up in corporate America for the next position that I was going to take. Plus, I was already running businesses in which I never had to use the actual salary that I made from that organization to find out, or I'm sorry, to substantiate my lifestyle, right? And so as a result, I was willing to take less money for more experience and also for a max contribution into my 403b, because they were double matching the 403b and they had the best benefits of anywhere in the state. The University of Michigan had the best benefits of any company that I've ever worked for in my entire life, right? So I was willing to take less money because I didn't actually need the salary. The contribution of the salary first was, okay, I'm going to max out to double match the 403b, which is the same as a 401k. And then the rest of it, I can just bank because we're going to invest the rest of it because we don't need it in order to maintain our lifestyle, right? But on the University of Michigan, they have a specific website, and most other organizations do. They have a website in which you can go to, type out the name of whoever the person is, which is why I use my real name, which is one of the reasons why I like to be honest and open and transparent and live my life like an open book. You can type out the name of the person, and it will tell you exactly what the salary is of the person that worked there. You can find out anybody. You can find out your director. You can go and find out your coworkers, all of that.
Back to the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act of 2009.
I went to work for Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company in Gadsden, Alabama, as a manager in production, that being in the factory. After 19 years, I go into work on my shift, and I find in my mail a note. It's the fourth of a sheet of paper torn with my name and 3 men.
The note said Ledbetter made less than her peers,
including folks that she had trained. She was basically being radically underpaid.
In his first month in office, President Obama signed this law, which made...
Shout out to Obama continuing to be a feminist. You gotta love Obama. You gotta love Obama that continues to be a feminist. Obama enacted more things to support everything except for black men specifically. And I wasn't tripping about it because it don't matter who president. I'm going to get my bag no matter what. Do y'all know that Obama did more work for women, white women, alphabet community than any other president in history? Look at Lucky being messy.
made it easier to sue employers who pay their workers unfairly.
This has been a very long journey. People like Lilly Ledbetter paved the way to make sure that there will be equal pay laws on the books and make sure now that there's a movement toward pay transparency across the country.
Other factors, like technology, are changing the conversation too.
The internet has allowed that sort of information sharing to be sort of more normalized. It's easier. Sites like Glassdoor, where people share their salaries more or less anonymously, have, I think, started to shift the culture and the set of expectations.
Glassdoor is also a very, very good tool that people need to use when they're looking up the possibilities of trying to work for a company. The three things that you want to look for when you're trying to find out whether or not you want to work at a company, because what y'all don't understand is this in this interview process. And I deep dive into this in the Interviewing Like a King video that I got inside of the Patreon. Is just as much of an interview of them as it is of you. A lot of y'all go into an interview trying to impress them instead of trying to reverse it and have them impress you. An interview is the same thing as going up and talking to a woman. It's literally the exact same concept, right? And so what you're going to have to learn, and I'm not going to give you all of my sauce, but what y'all going to have to learn is that the interview process is more of a you interviewing them than them interviewing you once you get past the initial uncomfortable phase of introduction, finding out who's in the room, how much the processes are as far as what stages of the interview. Okay, this one is a technical. This one is actually to find out whether or not you're a cultural fit. This one is, an HR interview to understand your background and your reasons for how it is that you're moving, so on and so forth. It's a method to how you can be successful every single time, and then also make it to where they can't afford to not have you, but there's also tools on the internet that allows for you to actually understand what the pay range is. And even with what's listed, that is just a range. They are willing to go way above and beyond that in order to attain the right person for that particular position if you know how to sell yourself correctly. We're all in sales. You just don't know it yet. You just don't know how to sell yourself.
Put out a research study that talked about whether employees believe that their pay is fair. And only 32% believe that their pay was fair.
Yeah, everybody don't feel like
these laws could come with a catch.
There are these hidden effects, and it looks like pay transparency through this bargaining channel does very much affect wages, and the effect is typically not positive.
A growing group of economists believe public wage transparency may erode the bargaining power of individual workers.
Which I don't like it. Because then all it does is it unionizes the process, which makes it much difficult for me to be able to out-negotiate you, because then companies are going to start adjusting and just setting a flat rate based off of what it is that they can be paying a person. Because, listen, you can come into a company and you can feel like, oh, okay, well, I'm doing the same work as him, but you don't, and you don't add as much value, and you don't actually generate as much revenue as I do, and you're not as good as me. And so it's not the same as doing these jobs with a monkey suit on, in which you putting some wheels on, and you on the line, and we all in the plant. It's not the same. It's much, much different because, for example, when I stand in front of a client and that client's willingness to continue to do business with us or increase the amount of business that we do based off of the relationship that I have with the client, not just what my deliverables are, that's one of the determining factors for whether or not, and that's why I'm able to move up much more quickly, and that I'm able to have a position created for me that didn't even exist in the company, whereas you just trying to come in and match my energy or match my efficiency or saying that I'm doing the same amount of work. No, the cultural fit matters, whether or not people want to work with you. The ability to be able to recruit other people or retain talent and employees also factor into it. one thing that people say a lot of times is, well, we don't make the same pay. You don't know what my bonuses is. You don't know what my employee equity in the company is, my employee pay equity in the company, my ESPP. You don't know what my separate performance bonuses are when we meet certain thresholds. You don't know what my compensation as far as when they give me equity, when it vests. You don't understand any of that. And so you just think it's based off of the base salary, and that's not it. When I say the total compensation package, I'm talking about it all encompassing. And when you get to a certain level, it's based off of what you can negotiate, not based off of what you feel. And this is the difference between men and women, all right? This is the difference between men and women. And I told y'all I'm going to give y'all the truth. The truth is, it's the nature of a woman to be more nurturing, so you're more accepting of what somebody give you because you just happy to be there. Now, I will tell you that simps have the same problem. And I know y'all don't like the word simp, but I'm telling you this because we have to put labels on things so we can separate the two and you'll understand exactly how I'm breaking this game down, right? Simps have the same problem. And the reason that simps have the same problem is because they're just happy to be there the same way that they're happy to be in a relationship. They don't even know how they got that girl. They didn't know that that girl didn't really want them and that all of the other guys had already had them and that she settled for him when she had nothing else left to give. And so as a result, he's just sitting there saying, yeah, I got a bad one. But everybody had a bad one. And she's not yours, just your turn. And so because you're just happy to be there, she's willing to tolerate you, but she's not willing to give you everything, similar to how a company or a corporate entity is willing to give you everything in order to make sure that they retain you because they understand how valuable you are. Now, the other side of the equation is that we realize how valuable some of these women are. We realize that they work harder, that they're more loyal, that they're going to be up earlier. Some women are willing to sacrifice their families, throw away their whole family, separate their kid from the father, live their whole life without never getting married, so on and so forth, and dedicate themselves to the company culture. And that's what it takes in order to rise in corporate America. The other side of the equation of that, though, is that you still have that nurturing spirit within you that's feminine that allows for you not to ask more than what it is that you think you deserve, which then can put you in a better bargaining position. And so a lot of women, they're unwilling to pay for coaching, or they're unwilling to pay for somebody to help them negotiate their salary or to guide them through the corporate process. And then they leave a lot of money on the table because they don't know how to say no. In the same way that most women don't know how to say no to the guy that they really want, understanding that that makes them more desirable in most instances, they don't know when and how to say no. It's a difference to be a rejection. It's a difference than saying no, and it's a difference than playing hard to get. It's a different way in order to leverage certain things, in order to ensure that they know that there's competition and there's a marketplace for you, right? And so you use that, or you use the idea that you don't need them in order to negotiate a better package. You know that your experience, a lot of people job hop a lot of times instead of sticking around for 2, 3, 4 years. For me in particular, I wouldn't stick around any more than 4 years. 3 years is the space where you start to get the itch, but it's enough time for you to actually have enough projects under your belt, and it shows that you stick with something and that you can be a cultural fit and build up enough references and relationships in which you can carry those relationships long term with you well after you've left the company, and then you maintain that inside of your phone. And I got a whole nother method that I give the bag chasers and the Patreon members in order to maintain a network so that it don't just become out of sight, out of mind from the different people. But 3 years is when you should start to get the itch. 4 years is when you know you start to been there a little bit too long, because often at times, if you have not been promoted, then people will pay you more in order to leave. So again, I don't want to give y'all the sauce that we talk about inside of the Patreon, so I'm going to limit it to there. But I'm going to just leave you with this. Most women don't know how, not when, but how to say no. And then they don't have the balls to be able to be willing to walk away, which is what men then have over them as far as leveraging, negotiating their packages. It's not that they offering you any less than they offered him. It's just that they really wanted him and they were unwilling to let him go, in which they were willing to go over and above what it was that they were paying normal everyday people like you, because they knew that they can get you for cheap because you not worth nothing and you don't even understand your worth and your value. And so instead of looking at him and saying, well, he making the same thing, I should be making the same thing as him, you should be able to negotiate more effectively, and then you can make more than him. And that's why most people that come in after you make more than you, and then you still have to train them. Because it's not the job that determines whether or not he's going to get paid a lot. It's the cultural fit. You think that your job and what you do on the job and how hard you work is the determining factor for how much you get paid. It's not. It's cultural fit. When you see these women, and I know y'all hate this part because I told y'all was gonna hate this part. When you see these women and they gotta have they African braids in and shit, right? And they smell like fucking black soap and they overdoused in perfume and they look like they fucking going to the after hours every time they show up for work. That's a factor in whether or not you're going to be promoted or a cultural fit because you're a representation in the face of the company. You think that everybody is just supposed to accept you, but what you don't understand is that when you go up in corporate America, you're literally in sales. The job title is just a thing for the general public. What we're really doing is sales every day. CEO, president, director, senior VP, CTO, CFO, they're sales. Now, you may not like it that you can't wear your African braids and I can't talk the way I want to talk because historically in Africa, we all usually be able to wear a whole lot of jewelry around our neck and they should be able to accept me because I got on everything and all of my labels say Dior, 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 Dior. You may feel a certain type of way, but I'm telling you that you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're shooting yourself in the foot if you don't figure out how to be likable and a cultural fit. The first thing that people look for, the first thing that I look at is your Instagram. I look at your Facebook because it paints a better picture of who you are that your resume is going to lie to me about, right? And then I can come in and I can kick it with you in person and I can better understand whether or not you finesse me or not. But no, you want to be slick neck. You want to say, listen, I'm training him. So why is he making more money than me? Because he's a better cultural fit for what the organization feels that they need in order to continue to get more business from the general public. It just is what it is. It's the same thing when it comes to your wife, your spouse, so on and so forth, right? I tell guys all the time, if I see you in the streets and then I see your wife and she look like she for the streets. Come on, somebody. Y'all not hearing me. If I see you in the streets as a man, I'm reading super chats throughout the show, and then I see your wife, because let's be clear, it's a difference between wives and whores. Y'all don't want to hear me today. Y'all don't want to hear me today. Y'all said, Anton, I'm in my feelings. You're not supporting the blackity black movement. You all here talking about, how we need to compete instead of holding Pearl accountable. Y'all don't want to hear me. Y'all don't want to hear me. When I see you in the streets as a man and your wife look like she's for the streets, now I'm not talking about your side chick. I'm not talking about the chick that you busting down. I'm talking about your wife. If your wife look like she's for the streets, then your wife is a reflection of you and how it is that you run your household. It tells me a lot about you before I even have a conversation with you, right? Y'all not ready for this sauce. I'm gonna lead us there. I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna leave it there because I don't want to go into that. I don't want to offend nobody. If I see you in the streets and your wife look like she's for the streets, your wife is supposed to look like a wife. She's supposed to look like a mother. She's supposed to look like she's well put together. She's supposed to look like she's well taken care of. Her car shouldn't be dusty. The inside of her car shouldn't be dirty, right? Her hair is supposed to be done. Her breath is supposed to be smelling good. She's not supposed to be overly revealing, but she's supposed to be somebody that you respect. She's supposed to be respectful. Your wife is supposed to be a Swiss Army knife. She's not supposed to look like them same old hoes that you used to dealing with at the bar. And that's why when I hear a lot of these guys, right, that talk on a lot of these spaces that don't know shit about corporate America, they ain't never made no real money outside of doing drugs and dealing cocaine in the streets. When I hear these guys talk, I know they don't know what the fuck they talking about when it comes to picking wives, because picking a wife is more than just all of this other dumb shit. It's a business decision. This is the person that is going to be a reflection of whether or not you can, when you walk into the house and your wife look like she's for the streets, they're not going to take you serious. When you look like you got a rent a wife, they're not going to take you serious. It's a reason why men that are married make more money than men that aren't, because they understand how to look at everything from a business perspective. That's not all men, obviously. But as men in general, you have to know how to play the game. Everything is literally a game. It's all a game. Everything is a game. And if your chick is not bought in, and if she is not executing your vision, in which you don't even have a vision for her to execute in the first place, if you're not ready in order to leverage that relationship in order to do things from a business, when I say from a business perspective, I'm not even just talking about from a bag. I'm also talking about how it is that you want your children to be raised. What is it that you want your kids to be taken in? What image do you want to imprint in their mind? There's people that say, yo, Anton, I remember everything from 4 years old all the way up, and this is the one thing that I couldn't get out of my head. Well, that tells me why you are the way that you are today. What image do you want imprinted in your mind? What relationships do you want to leverage? How is it that you want this woman to be able to move specifically in order to ensure that you continue to level up in corporate America? How can you send this woman out when you take her out in order to bring in more business by making friends with the wives instead of offending them? Because there's certain wives, they don't want to be associated with certain type of women, and they can see them from a mile off. Your wife needs to look like she's non-offensive, that she's friendly, that she's able to hold a conversation, and that she's able to relate to the rest of the wives. And so if yours can't, then it's a strong possibility that she can't go back to her husband and say that, hey, you should be doing business with her. If you can't use your wife as a Swiss Army knife in order to continue to bring value into your household, then what the fuck is she there for? Y'all don't want to hear this conversation. Y'all don't want to hear this conversation. Y'all thought that it was just all up and down and everything like that. And so because I don't say everything and because I don't give y'all the sauce, y'all out here betting for the wrong thing because you don't truly understand what it takes to look at things from a business perspective and level up. I'm giving you the sauce, family. I'm giving you the game. Don't get mad at me. Pay attention to what I'm saying. If you can take it, then you can take it. If you can't, then spit the bones out, take the meat, and keep it going. But that's enough. I don't want to go too much. I don't want to go too deep because I can talk about this and I can really skin this cat. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Also, if you need to get in touch with me personally from a business perspective, email me at antondaniels413@gmail.com. It's not all fun and games. Sometimes we have fun. Sometimes we have the entertainment. But we got to put the medicine inside of the candy also. And I want to leave y'all with some gems, at the very least, a few gems, so that you can implement it into your life and hopefully you see things from a different perspective than you did when you first came in. Listen, I love you. I appreciate you.